Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Golden Opportunities Coaching YouTube channel and the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel where you are now. If you're looking for life, business, relationship coaching, please feel free to reach out on my main channel, Golden Opportunities Coaching. But this is the WCW Saturday Night Review series for the 30th of January, 1992. Shane Douglas, Ricky Steamboat out here. They basically are kind of talking about the issues they have had with Pillman and friends. Pillman, Austin, and his other main opponent, Z-Man and Chris Benoit. Benoit will be talked about on this channel. Some places avoid talking about him. What he did in his personal life was horrific, but doesn't take away from the fact that he was, in fact, one of the best wrestlers of all time, or for his generation at the very least. Pillman and Z-Man is an interesting match. They do a lot of switches and holds. Obviously, Benoit having been taught in the dungeon and certainly patenting after Dynamite Kid. Z-Man gets an early advantage, doesn't really hold on to it for too terribly long. Benoit comes back in and hits a suplex over the top rope strand. Goes to work on him, hits a backbreaker. This is really a showcase for Benoit. Surprising to me that Benoit, and maybe it was even something as simple as a visa issue, but I mean, then he hits the German suplex, gets a victory, 1, 2, 3. But surprising that he's only here for a couple of months. Maybe he was here on a temporary visa, because I can't imagine having a guy like that and then letting him go back to obscurity for a couple of years. Anyway, Max Payne is up next with an interview basically hyping, going after the idea of, or at least going after, Johnny B. Bad and setting kind of the tone for being kind of a punk rocker. Then we see the Too Cold Scorpio music video, which at the time I thought was amazing and fun. Of course, I was a, 12-year-old kid in 1993. Ron Hagen and Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker against Brad Armstrong and Too Cold Scorpio. They had not found Scorpio and Bagwell yet. That comes over the next couple of months. Armstrong comes back here a little bit. Isn't here too terribly long. Obviously, Sergeant Buddy Lee Parker becomes the head trainer at the power plant. Pretty big deal there. Sidekicks, leapfrogs, jump kicks, and the like by Scorpio. Tag back to Brad Armstrong. Beautiful Russian leg sweep. And almost gets does get the victory there. Odd to see Armstrong get the victory, but maybe they're going the Southern fans would appreciate that more. Vader does the invite of the White Castle of Fear. Vignette basically inviting Sting, who looks like some cross between Arnold Schwarzenegger and RoboCop, to come in and win a match or go at the match as a strap match for the Super Brawl coming up. Steven Regal, a.k.a. later William Regal, comes out, talks about the wrestling in the WCW being some of the best in the world, mentions being an international star, which he certainly was by that point. Big deal there. Bagwell coming around, and Bagwell and Eric Watts, which is a really not good idea for a team. Scotty Flamingo and his tag team partner. Our basic challenges. Watts, a pretty big deal here. Drop kicks and such by Bagwell. Watts comes in and basically has been overpushed. Obviously, he's been the one to take out Arn Anderson for a while. Enhancement talent here in Rip Rogers, the tag team partner for Scotty Flamingo. So that'll tell you how far Flamingo has dropped to be in an enhancement style situation. Not that there's anything wrong with Rip Rogers. Rip Rogers is one of the best trainers in the world. However, not exactly a guy who's been treated with a whole bunch of respect by this point by the WCW brand. This may be one of his first matches for a while. Anyway, Dragon Screw leg whip style maneuver by Watts. Watts then puts on the STF, and again, we get a victory for Watts. Some match hype for the Rock and Roll Express. They are putting over the Smoky Mountain Tag Team Championships and being back together in WCW, at least short term, as a team. And then we see Rage and Fury, the Wrecking Crew, in a enhancement talent match. Rex Ryder and another enhancement talent. Basically, the Wrecking Crew are a bunch of brawlers, nothing to write home about. They managed to have about a 5-minute match here, if that, and Clothesline takes out one of the enhancement talents. Wrecking Crew doesn't stay around too terribly long. And then we see a sit-down interview with Gordon Solie. Gordon Solie says that Vader is one of the best, if not the best, champion of all time. Then we see a backstage promo as Vader and Barry Windham talk about being champion. Vader with the strap, getting ready for the strap match with Sting coming up at Super Brawl, which is the whole idea behind the White Castle beer. Harley Race manages to talk a bunch about how dominating and domineering Vader is, and then we go to a Max Payne match. Payne, of course, does the leather jacket, the rock star kind of gimmick. He's out to lunch, certainly, so to speak, and then we see Johnny Gunn and Max Payne. Again, major transitions in WCW. Not sure who took over at this point, but you can see the transitions complete, right around the, let's say, December to here time. Watts is leaving pretty soon. Shoulder tackles by Gunn. Gunn later becomes self-sincere. Not the most, got a right home about it match. Body slams and basic stuff by Max Payne. Payne eventually does hook the arm breaker onto Gunn and gets the tap-out victory. Interesting that he's one of the few people at the time who's doing a bunch of submission-style victories. Sting and Dustin Rhodes backstage getting ready for their tag team main event. Sting with red and white. Rhodes with red and white. They're kind of in line with each other. Rhodes is frustrated at having to go at it with his former tag team partner Windham. Sting wants to get at Vader and get the championship back, and then we see Paul Orndorff out here. Orndorff, who has really kind of come back into his own in WCW at this time frame. Barbarian, who has done a short-term babyface run. I'd say short-term because I don't remember him being here much more. He's back in WWF, certainly by 94. Sometime late in 93 wouldn't surprise me, although I think he went to Japan for a little while too. Barbarian hits a bunch of clotheslines. I think it's the first time I've seen Barbarian as a babyface since about 1988 WWF or so. So, that's a bit of an interesting run. Orndorff manages to catch a big boot and rolls to the outside. Orndorff takes a bunch of punishment, and I don't know that the Barbarian as a babyface really would have worked. Some power moves, of course, the Barbarian gets a turn along with Cactus Jack. Cactus Jack not at ringside with Orndorff at this particular point. Orndorff with a cutoff on the Barbarian manages to get a couple of shots along the way, and Barbarian eventually lays him out with a bit of a power slam. Orndorff manages a back suplex and eventually gets what is a surprise victory over the Barbarian. And then we move to, a bit more of a convoluted sort of thing. Sting and Rhodes versus Vader and Windham as your main event. They've got about 15 minutes or so. Vader looks massive here, probably the best he's ever looked. Windham looks pudgy. That's particularly not a good thing. Windham and Sting start off to think that they were feuding over the NWA Championship in less than 3 years before this. So Windham catches a couple of shots to the eyes. Got to grab my phone, so I will be back in 2 shakes of a lamb's tail to finish this up. But we'll be back in just a little bit there.
Incoming Keen Chat request.
And again, the match continues in a pretty decent way. At the end of the day, though, what you have is, the struggling of a guy like Rhodes, who hasn't found his place yet, who may find it soon enough, but at the end of the day, too, also struggles to find a place of deeper belonging. in this time period. Some would say he doesn't find it till Goldust. Others, for me, I think he found it by the end of '93. But, not exactly a guy that they were building around. Vader takes quite a number of good shots at him. And, obviously the Vader Sting thing, certainly much more rambunctious. We get some clotheslines by Vader, knees by Vader, and Rhodes tries to fight up underneath. They kind of hold off on the Sting and Vader facing off thing, building to the Super Brawl match, and they have had a good bit of matches. Sting very animated on the outside, body slam by Vader. Vader taking Rhodes to a pretty, I won't say bad limit, but strong limit. Vader tries to hit a splash or some sort of top rope maneuver. It has to end up rolling through it, and it's not a friendly situation for Vader by any stretch of the imagination. Vader does manage to get a splash on Rhodes. It's there, but kind of hanging out for some suplexes and some really basic things. Vader with a vertical suplex that pretty well cracks Rhodes in half for a minute there. Basic stuff. And then tag back to Wyndham, and Rhodes again gets taken up with an attempted suplex. This time Rhodes up over the back, and meanwhile Harley Race on the outside is not selling it too much. Anyway, Vader cuts Rhodes off from getting to Sting, and with about 3-4 minutes left in the program, it's very clear that the idea here is to tease Sting and Vader, but not give too terribly much of that away going into the Super Brawl 3 pay-per-view. Sting finally does get the hot tag, clearing house on both guys, and Sting certainly is, at this point, the top babyface. Rhodes gets attacked by Race on the outside, Stinger Splash on the inside after Sting takes out Vader. Sting hits the Stinger Splash on Wyndham and rolls him over. Vader manages to run back into the ring and hit a clothesline on Sting while there is some chaos. And Wyndham falls onto Sting, giving the heel team the victory, and or close to a victory, before Wyndham finally hits the jumping DDT on Sting. A match worth going out of your way to see if you've never seen it before. But we'll be back with more right after this.